morning, or afternoon, depending on where you're coming from. Thank you all for joining us for this webinar, Standardizing and Automating Long-Term Record Keeping at the Royal College of Nursing. My name is Kim Otaki. I'm a marketing manager here at Preservica and based in the US. Before we get started, I wanted to get a few housekeeping pieces out of the way. First, this webinar is being recorded and will be shared with everyone after this presentation. Secondly, if you have any questions during this webinar, please use the question box in the GoToWebinar interface throughout the presentation. All questions will be gathered at the end of the presentation and will be answered in a follow-up email. So be on the lookout for that. So let's get started. Today's webinar will focus on a case study example, managing long-term Microsoft 365 records with the Royal College of Nursing. We're excited to be joined by Gareth Bennett, Product Marketing Manager at Preservica, Joshua Nelson, the Digital Archivist at the Royal College of Nursing, and Emily Edwards, the Records Assistant. Recently, Gareth sat down to chat with Joshua and Emily to discuss how they successfully navigated common challenges, including data sprawl, limited staffing, changing records cultures, technical constraint, and an over-reliance on IT. Their story isn't just about adopting a new tool, Preserve 365. It's about learning that technology alone can't solve that problem. It's about balancing kit and culture, using smart systems to manage records more effectively, while also building a culture where staff understand, value, and take ownership of information governance. I'm now going to turn it over for a shorter version of the full fireside chat that Gareth, Joshua, and Emily recently had.
I'm Gareth. I'm on the product marketing team here at Preservica, very much focused on the Preserve 365 product from before launch all the way through to where we are now, which has been a very rapid and exciting journey that we've been on. So it's great to have RCN as one of the early adopters and people who've been really testing the product and seeing how it can be implemented in their organization. So I think it'd be wonderful to take some time together now and look back at their story of their project and their implementation and see what they've learned through that process. So we'll open the floor to either of you, whoever wishes to bite the bullet and answer the questions. But just to start very quickly and very simply, not often do people get to be part of projects as early adopters of a new technology. It comes along once or twice in somebody's career. So what was it like for you guys to be at the forefront of, I suppose, not only a technology implementation in your business, but possibly a bit of a cultural shift as well?
Shall I go first, or Joshua, do you want to? I guess I can go first. So I haven't been with the RCN too long. I've been there about 18 months. So I have seen some of the development of the product and things, but I was really this first records management role that came in. So in terms of that, like, it's been amazing to see the shift as we moved to the governance team and everything, that we sort of made more of an area for ourselves in terms of records management. So that has only happened for the last couple of months and things that we've seen. But just as I've been building relationships with people across the different areas and everything, it is definitely a need within the organization, and it's definitely something that's welcomed. So that's been really nice. Joshua, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I think that one of the reasons that we wanted to be early adopters was because we knew, I think we kind of saw the potential of where this was going to go and how this could help, really help us. And we wanted to be part of that group to give feedback, to help shape the product as it was going forward. And I think that we've been able to do that. I think that we've had lots of chats with the P365 team about, different, we would like to have this, we'd like to have this, is X a possibility, or is that too far out? And so we wanted to kind of jump in and to say, we think that this product has a lot of potential, and we want to be the ones to help shape it. Because often, as you were kind of alluding to, Gareth, it often is you get a product that's already fully fledged, and you don't get that opportunity to say, actually, I want to see if we can help shape this product in its early stages. And so I think that was one of the reasons that we popped in, was because we really wanted to give that opportunity to shape the product.
Yeah.
Yes, I suppose you suppose when you're in that sort of situation where you're building a new business process and a new way of working, and then you're using a technology, if it's malleable, if it can be influenced, then obviously it's very helpful to yourselves as well. But you're not, although you're the one of the first organisations to get hands on and be implementing something. I think overall, the reason why this line of questioning is because most organisations don't have anything, not just from the technology point of view, but where it becomes this, where archiving and archival transfers and preservation is part of the everyday, and that's the goal, isn't it? That's the end goal here, is where although it might be controlled by certain processes and individuals, you've got check gates in place, not leaving it free for all. It's bringing it into people's working lives and their day-to-day workflows more and more. So although, as I say, you were the early ones there, actually most organizations were probably on that. Have you got any just anecdotal pieces of experiences or advice around that kind of change that you've come across the business?
Well, the main issue that we run into is people saying they don't have time. That is the common response that we get, is that they think it's wonderful and they can really see the value of it, but they do not have time to engage with the process. So Preserve 365 has really been helpful with that, because it automates the process. So beforehand, well, we work with super users essentially. So the super user program, they have to download or send us the records manually. So the checking in and all the stuff that comes with that. Whereas now it's automated, it really has allowed us to scale a lot more. So this is a gradual process, but we are hoping to engage with a lot of different areas of the organisation with this. So super users will only have to ensure that things are filed correctly, instead of doing the whole sort of appraisal and things like that before it comes to us. And the rest is sort of taken over by Preservica with the P365 labels and things. So it really has, like I said, allowed us to scale the process a lot more. So yeah, that's been really helpful.
I think so. In effect, taking away the manual steps that they were having to go through, get rid of those, make it a 2-click, for argument's sake, a 2-click process.
Yeah.
Helps your case then in getting people to comply with what you need. Excuse me.
Yeah, it takes the decision out of it, because we have provided them with retention schedules and everything and advised on folder structure. However, there was an element of decision making that was put onto them of, should we send this to the archive or should we not? Like, which area does this fall into? Whereas with the automatic labels, that takes the decision making out of it for them, really. So they just have to check that it matches everything else. So it has taken a lot of the pressure off. And obviously all the staff across the RCN, they have big roles to fill, they have big decisions to make in their normal role, so to take this one away from them has been really valuable.
Can you tell me more then, Emily, about these labels, about how you've structured the process really for super users?
Yeah, so we have engaged them already with their retention schedule. So each department or team has their own retention schedule that is more tailored to them than the overall RCN group one. So, for example, it says which CPUs are responsible for which area, and it sort of breaks it down into things that are relevant to them. So we already had that, and we've aligned their folder structures with that retention schedule and the labels as well, so that, for example, all meeting papers go in one folder, and that says 2 years in archive. So it takes that step away from them, and it makes sense to them. So we've listened to them on what they would need and what makes sense for them, and sort of structured it in that way.
And you mentioned in your presentation about doing away with a more detailed retention schedule. Is that correct?
So we do have an overarching broad strokes one for the RCN group. So that says, what to do with member details because we're a trade union and that sort of thing. But we found that staff were struggling to find their work streams within that when it was those big sort of ideas. So we wanted the individual departmental ones to break it down into things that they could recognize. So like press releases or something that they see, oh, I make those, this is my area.
Okay. So could you give me just a few more examples just for our audience so that they could understand? Because this might be a useful thing for people, particularly those who are perhaps looking at implementing Purview and everything that Purview can offer. It can be overwhelming at times with where to start and how to roll it out. So could you just tell us a little bit more maybe about the decision-making process there and how you got to the kind of final state and why you made those decisions?
So we started off with obviously legislation, as everything has to be started. So we mapped out what legislation will affect our records. Obviously, there was a basis of this already, but in terms of what specific record examples that are in our retention schedule, what legislation aligns with that, and things like that. So we made sure that it was all legally compliant first. And then from them, we did a basis of advice that we believed people would be able to stick to. So, like I said, 2 years for meeting papers and things like that. Beyond that, people don't really need to review it all that often. And then from there, we really wanted to talk to the different departments, the different teams, because we found it's important to balance out their need to sort of their feeling of control of their records, because we need to get their buy-in on this anyway, otherwise there's going to be riots and everything. So we need to make sure that they're happy and that they feel like they're being heard, and balancing that with obviously consistency across the organisation and the legal compliance as well. So balancing those two out. So we really wanted to involve them in the process, and we have done that. So we approached the teams with a draft of this is what we think would be helpful for you, and then we ask for their feedback, and it's a constant back and forth. And it gets reviewed every year with them to see if their work streams have changed and things like that, so that they feel like they have a voice in their retention schedule. And where it sort of, doesn't fit with legal compliance, we will tell them, and we will tell them why, so that they feel informed about that as well, that it's not just a list of rules that they have no control over.
So are there any arguments or cases to be put forward for what's in it for them? So obviously, I suppose there is an avoidance of getting into trouble for non-compliance. I think that's an obvious one. But is there anything that, is there any kind of benefits, other benefits perhaps that they may see or experience through engaging with this process and following it as well, maintaining it?
Yeah, so we've had a lot of data loss because the organisation was struggling in terms of the volume of records that we had, and something needed to be done, and we had no capacity for records management at the time. So IT just installs a blanket auto delete on files, and there's been quite a lot of file loss through this across the organisation, so people are very aware of the risks. So almost everyone who has been here for a while has had active experience of losing records through that. And again, through just not being able to find files because of, the way files are structured and just lots of different storage areas. So they sort of know the benefits for themselves in that sense, and it's just illustrating that, really. Joshua, do you have anything to add on
that? Yeah, I think that there's some benefit as well to say, because as more of the archivist kind of person, I feel that we have we are much more primed to be able to answer questions for people. And so often one of the benefits of having actual records management policies installed and in effect across the organization is that we are getting those transfers that come in regularly. And so that then, because often we go back to people and they'll come in with a question that says, we think this decision happened at a board meeting in, 2007 to 2010, somewhere around there. And often there are times when we have to go back and we have to say, we don't have the records from that time period. Like we weren't given them. They never came in. I'm really sorry. I don't know. We don't have an answer for you. And so I think one of the other benefits in the long term is to say, hey, look, 10, 15 years down the road, we will be able to answer all of these questions because we do have these records, because we have these policies that we've implemented. So I think it's just getting that buy-in and not having to rely on hopefully someone sent an email that still is existing, that it was attached as, and that would go away with the person when they leave the organization. So that email, account is no longer active and it's gone. And developing all of these processes, I think in the long term is really going to help people answer those, because we do get a lot of questions that come in from people. What happened 10, 15 years ago? We had this part of the RCN that is no longer existent. Why is it that way? What was the thing? And so we can answer that if we have the records, but if we don't, we can't. And so it is just, that ability to give firm, confident answers because we have the records, because we have those policies in place.
So how are you or intending to be using the technology to improve access then? Is there plans to allow people, super users or others, to almost self-serve? Or is it going to be channeled through you guys and you're the kind of the gatekeepers?
Yeah, we have currently all of the super users have access to their area of records in Preservica. And now with P365, they're going to be able to access those through SharePoint, so that'll make it even easier, because currently it's, we have to give training on how to access in Preservica and what you can do and how to find your records and the limitations that are there. But now, with transferring it just from SharePoint, being able to access it in SharePoint, you can just say, yes, I remembered this is where it was at, this is what it was titled, I can go and find it in SharePoint. So that's going to hopefully make it a lot more self-service based. But I think that we'll have more of a role in the longer term questions. I think in the short to medium term, people will be able to self-service a lot more easily. I think in the longer term, they'll still come back to us. And I mean, we're happy if people are able to find the information themselves. That makes our job a lot easier, because we have a lot of other things to be getting on with. But if they need us, we're able to answer those questions. But I think with P365 and the ability to access records not only through the digital archive but in SharePoint while you're still in SharePoint is going to be really helpful, because they can just kind of look back and see, oh yeah, this is, I remember 2010, maybe not 2010, but 2020 board meetings or something, this is where they were at, so I can go and find them and see them and get the answers to my own questions.
And do you think it helps? So by having an archival transfer process that is more sustainable for everybody, I suppose, are the end users, the business users, finding benefits with having less clutter in SharePoint? So when they do look for something, you've got a couple of things. You're hopefully maybe deleting stuff that you don't need anymore, because you know that you've got your final copy and you've made that transfer. And have you had any feedback about if that's improving just the day-to-day, just finding things, even if it isn't an archival object?
Yes, we definitely have. It's a sort of early on in the process. We've been recalling the CPS program for about a year now, so we're just starting to see the benefits of that come in. But as part of that, we have been doing advice on like functional folder structure and naming conventions and things like that, alongside the early testing on the labels. So it's sort of all come together. But we have had very positive feedback that people have been able to find things more, that it's taking up less brain space because they know what things should be called, they know where they're going to be stored, and they don't have to sort of think about it as much as they did before. And there has been a lot of organizational sort of turnover in terms of structure and that sort of thing, people moving roles. We have like a publishing arm that's going to come in, and like there's a lot of structural change. So the functional structure is holding up for the most part that we found, with obviously the sort of overall structure changing, the function is still remaining the same. So our advice still remains intact, and people have found the value of that whilst they're moving offices, they're moving, you know, areas, all of this, but the functions and the retention is still the same.
So would it be fair to say then that as the organisation continues to evolve, and nothing ever stands still, having this sort of solution in place and the way that you've implemented it allows you to adapt to that change more readily and still tick all of the key boxes of compliance and provision of information?
Yeah, I mean, it's the overall benefit of archives, really. One of them is the fact that by doing it in a functional way, you sort of weather the storms and weather the changes of whatever it is you're collecting. So we see that from our catalogue that we've, you know, been doing for, you know, lots of years. As you go through, and like the education committee has a million different names and a million different like arms and legs and all of that. It's the benefits of archiving that are coming from that as well, is that we sort of, by doing it in a functional way, we can adapt to those changes. And I think just bringing that more to the awareness of staff, they are starting to see the value of that.
Well, we could keep talking forever, but I'm probably not allowed to do that. So I'd have to say thank you so much indeed for an excellent presentation, for your open responses and, you know, honest responses as well in this. I think it's been really, really helpful I hope very helpful for our audience, because you know, taking the experience from others about how they've gone through projects, the good, bad, and the ugly, I think is helpful for everybody. So yeah, I really, really appreciate that, and thank you again for your time.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Thanks, everyone. Right.
Bye.
I hope that you guys all enjoyed that discussion. If you're looking to get more details and dive a little bit deeper into the story of how Royal College of Nursing's navigation of common challenges, including the data sprawl, limited staffing, changing records culture, technical constraint, and an over-reliance on their IT department, you can view the entire discussion on our website via the QR code that's currently on this slide. We will also be sending out the link to the full conversation in our follow-up emails, so please be on the lookout for that. I want to thank Gareth, Joshua, and Emily for that wonderful chat. And thank you guys for joining us today. Again, if you have any questions or would like more information, please feel free to reach out. I hope you guys have a great rest of your day. Thank you.